Hello everyone. This is a continuation of the skandha. So we're on the last skandha today. So I've already said a little bit about form, feeling, discriminations, and karma formations or conditioning. That was yesterday. So today I'm going to say a bit about consciousness. Well, mostly I'm going to read about consciousness because I don't think you can do better than hearing what Francesca Fremantle says in Luminous Emptiness, where she goes into quite a lot of detail about the five skandhas. I'm just going to read some excerpts. So yes, this fifth and last skandha is consciousness, which is Vijnana in Sanskrit. And that's consciousness which knows or experiences. It does not imply a higher or awakened consciousness. That's expressed by the Sanskrit word jnana. The prefix vi, as in Vijnana, indicates division or separation. It's divided consciousness, dualistic consciousness, we could say. It's no longer whole, but it's limited and fragmented. It is separated from its original primordial state of non-dual knowing and has become the ordinary consciousness of everyday life. So that's worth reflecting on, isn't it? That we have got divided consciousness. It's been separated from its primordial consciousness, its awakened state. So consciousness has 8 aspects. We could say there are 8 consciousnesses. The first 6 of these operate through the 6 senses. All the skandhas are interdependent, and consciousness pervades all of them. None of them could function without the presence of consciousness, so it is already inherent even in the first, the skandha of form. Form is the bare existence of the senses and their objects. Consciousness is what brings them to life. For its part, consciousness relies on all the other skandhas in order to operate. It's not a fixed entity, not some abstract state of pure consciousness, but an impermanent, changing, dynamic process. So that suggests that jnana is unchanging. Reality is unchanging in the sense of not being static, but it's not changing in the way that everything that's conditioned is changing. The first 6 aspects of this skandha are the consciousness of sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch, and then the mental consciousnesses. The last of these, the mental consciousness, is equivalent to the thinking mind. Then the 7th aspect is called the defiled or afflicted mental consciousness, and it's responsible for our sense of self. Trungpa Rinpoche called it the cloudy mind, because it's clouded over by ignorance. And ignorance, of course, is the fundamental emotional affliction. That's the root one. Affliction or klesha in Sanskrit literally means a pain, something that hurts and torments us. It's the pain of not knowing our true self, not knowing the indestructible, awakened being. This ignorance pervades the consciousness of the 6 senses, so that all our perceptions are immediately influenced by confusion. So that's the defiled consciousness. And then 8th, we have the consciousness that's the basis of the other 7. Sometimes this is called the storehouse consciousness. It holds the imprints left by all past experiences that in turn become the seeds of future experiences. But it's diffuse and undifferentiated. It's not even dependent on this particular body and this lifetime. It is potentiality, a sense of being, but not quite a fully formed individual. It carries the continuity of karmic effects from one life to the next, and it creates a mental body during the bardo between death and birth, death and rebirth. In some ways, it corresponds to our concept of the unconscious mind, but it's nevertheless called a consciousness because it's always present and potentially conscious, even in coma or in deep sleep. Wherever there is mind, there is consciousness. The two terms are interchangeable. Mind, or even consciousness, is very closely linked with prana, the life force. It's equivalent to life itself, for we are still alive as long as prana and mind have not left the body, even when we're apparently unconscious. Through meditation, it eventually becomes possible to penetrate this level and to transform ordinary consciousness, Vijnana, that's divided consciousness, into pure, non-dual knowledge, which is jnana. So this is very important, isn't it, to see how our consciousness is divided, that it's dualistic. That instead of an open space-like awareness, mostly we are limited, you could say, by our concepts of ourself and other. Well, in every way we think, really, good and bad, successful, unsuccessful, this and that, even one and many, for example. You know, without one, there is no many, and without many, there is no one. So, consciousness pervades all the other skandhas. You can't separate them. We separate them just so that we can, if you like, tease out some of our habits. We can look at the way that we discriminate. We can look at the way that we have prejudices. And I think in order to be able to really look at our awareness and look at our consciousness, takes quite a lot of courage, because we have to look at the defilements. We have to look at our own defilements and how they operate in ourselves. So in order to do that, we need a very strong basis of metta. Otherwise, we won't have the courage to do that. It'll be too overwhelming. So what does it mean for us to be ignorant? You know, to acknowledge that we have this spiritual ignorance. It's not an accusation, if you like. It's not saying something bad about ourselves. It's just talking about a state of reality. The state of reality whereby we have dualistic thinking. Anyway, I hope some of that made sense. I read you quite a chunk there from those excerpts. And yeah, lots to reflect on. So if there's anything you'd like me to talk about, that you can make suggestions, please do. Otherwise, I will ramble on in my own way, and I'll see you tomorrow. So, yeah, bye-bye for now.